Hey everybody, it's me, MTG Orzo. And today, we got another Commander overview, this time for this fucker, Oloro, Ageless, Ascetic. I can see about 27 of you have already furiously clicked the unsubscribe button for seeing this guy, but hear me out. Hear me out, you guys. I was tired of making decks where I turn dudes sideways and lose to better decks. And some guy, Bacon Hat, I think, the guy whose YouTube avatar is like Kim Jong-il as a Pokemon trainer, was like, why don't you do like a Control-y Super Friends deck? And I was like, that sounds really fucking tight. I'm gonna do that. So I did that, and this deck has been one of my favorite decks to play in a long time. It runs 0 creatures. The only thing in this deck that can make a creature is the 3 Elspeths that I run. They can make creatures. Everything else does other things. That was kind of a bad lead-in sentence, but the theme of the deck is to just pillow fort. It's not like a prison deck per se. Like there's no like ghostly prison or propaganda or something like that. It's mostly to just use wraths and removals that don't hit our planeswalkers, build up our planeswalkers, draw cards, draw more cards, reveal cards, and use Oloro to get a life pillow. Sometimes we cast Oloro, and really just remove everything until they quit. So this is the first commander I've ever made that I've experienced what I've called the what did I call it? I had a really creative name for it, but it's the concession hang, which is not what I thought it was. Not the cool word that I had thought up yesterday before I did this video, but the concession hang is you'll be just going off one turn and then you just can't do anything, and you're just like trying to cast like 4 spells and you're just going at it because your opponent can't do anything, and then basically like Moto stops working and you think, oh fuck, Moto fucked up again, but no, it's because they conceded, and like 2 seconds later it will just say you win. And this is the deck that has forced the most concessions out of any deck I've made, I think. I don't think I've ever won not with a concession. So I've never gotten their life to 0. I've never gotten them to 0 cards in their library. All of my wins have been concessions. And I don't know if that's like a good thing or a bad thing. All I know is that it's pretty fun. I'm enjoying it. Really enjoying it. It's actually kind of made me get real pumped into playing Magic again. That Sigarda deck was pretty bad, but let's go ahead. I've been fiddling with this wine bottle opener in the entire first couple minutes of this video, so I apologize if it just sounds like some metal clusterfuck. I just realized that's probably getting picked up. So let's go ahead and go over the deck. So lands, I finally have as close to a perfect land setup as I'm going to get. I don't have the filter lands from Lorwyn and Shadowmoor, and I don't have off-colored fetches. I'm only running 2 fetches in this. I'm only running what's it called, Flooded Strand and Polluted Delta, because I'm not I don't run a lot of cards that work with the fetches, really only Jace Mind Sculptor. So 2 fetches is fine. We've got, in terms of new lands, what are they? Where are they? Oh yeah, we got the Maze of Ith. Thanks, Eternal Masters. Really good in this deck, if you would imagine. We don't have a lot of blockers, but we have the new Shadows over Innistrad dual lands. I think I talked about in the Sigarda deck. So I've got Port Town and what's the other one called? Sunken Hollow? No. Port Town. What is it called? What's the fucking blue-black one? Hold on, I gotta find this. Well, here's the card. Alright, well, that's gonna go in. I'll take out a basic land, who cares? So these cards are, they're nice. You can reveal an island or swamp, and there's a battlefield untapped. And anything else new from this wonderful, wonderful deck? No. Basics, duels, we got everything. We got Mana Crypt, we got Soul Ring. 1 mana, Enlightened Tutor fetches us up our spicy artifacts and enchantments like Alhammarit's Archive, Winter Orb. What's the other one? Phyrexian Arena. Those are all like... Oh, excuse me. It was either this card or Mystical Tutor, and I decided over Enlightened Tutor because I think I have more wraths and removal spells than artifacts and enchantments I want to play. So being able to tutor a wrath or a removal spell is not as important to me as being able to tutor a artifact piece, like an early Soul Ring or sort of a Nevinyrral's Disc against a aggro deck. So Enlightened Tutor made the cut over Mystical Tutor. We got Path and Swords because I have no creativity. Ponder and Preordain because I have no creativity. And Imperial Seal and Vampiric Tutor. These cards play very well. We have a couple cards that look for top of the library, like Sorin, Grim Nemesis. Where is she? Narset. Deploy the Gatewatch. All of these cards work very well with the top of the library searching. Imperial Seal, it's not Vampiric Tutor, and having this not be instant speed, I didn't think would be a huge deal, but it turns out it's an enormous deal, and I kind of wish that it was instant speed, but then that's just Vampiric Tutor, so I don't know why I'm complaining, but Imperial Seal, not as good as Vampiric Tutor. 2 mana, Rest in Peace. This was the last card I added to the deck. I added it about an hour ago. I took out a Johnny that puts loyalty counters on Planeswalkers. This is -2. Forget his name, because I always drew him and never really did anything with him. So I added in Rest in Peace because it's a primo piece of Graveyard Hate, and we only run one other form of Graveyard Hate, and that is Bojuka Bog. So Rest in Peace is a cool card, cheap, on color, way to just kind of fuck over graveyards. And this deck has 0 methods of recursion. I guess technically Karn Liberated's ultimate is recursion, but there's no way for me to get cards back in the yard once they're there. So having a, and I don't have any like delve cards like I usually do in my blue decks. So having a, having a way to just say nobody else can use their graveyard is pretty awesome. Speaking of other cards I don't have in here, I don't have any extra turn cards in here. Mostly because this was the hardest deck for me to cut down on because I had so many playables. It just came down to taste, and I wanted to make blue decks. Like, if I was going to go ahead and play this fucking cocksucking son of a bitch with no creatures and a bunch of money cards, I didn't want to put extra turn cards in there as well. And my 5 slot is already pretty stacked, so fitting stuff in would have been hard. Moving on, Cyclonic Rift. Sometimes you gotta cast Cyclonic Rift. Mana Drain. I run 2 counterspells in this deck. I run Mana Drain and Dismiss. Those are my 2, like, in 3-color blue that doesn't have a lot of counterspells. I'm gonna run Mana Drain and Dismiss. In 2-color blue, I usually run 3. It'll be Mana Drain, Dismiss, Cryptic Command. Mystic Confluence sometimes shows up as well as just like original counterspell. Not a huge fan of the 3 mana counterspells. I don't feel like they do enough to not be another 2 mana. I've also been really fond of Memory Lapse recently. I don't know, it's just a cool card in EDH. Really, like, it's like a 2 mana soft counter or a hard counter to commanders, which is really sweet because they usually don't have it set to, if it would get put in the graveyard, like or if it go to your hand, they say, I don't know. What I'm trying to say is that they end up throwing the card into their command zone, so it gives you a free counter. But we're not running that in this deck. So I don't know why I'm talking about it. Where was I? Demonic Tutor. Sometimes you gotta get stuff. Like, I've Demonic Tutored from everything from a land to an Ugin. Like, it's basically turns whatever card you need into that card. It just costs 1 and a black extra, and you can pay for it in installments. Night's Whisper. Thank you, Eternal Masters, for making this card not like $2. It's not strictly better than Sign in Blood, because you can't do the really cheeky Sign in Blood kill by targeting your opponent with 2 or less life with it and kill them. But it costs 1 black, which makes it infinitely splashable in 3 color. And it's just really good card. We got a dick load of mana ramp at this CMC. We have all 3 signets. We have both talismans. You really want mana ramp, but you don't want to be stuck with mana ramp. Like, a lot of times when you build decks like this, you're like, okay, I got a ramp really fucking hard, so we're gonna just throw in 15 pieces of ramp and it's gonna get us to the promised land. And then you're on like turn 8 and all you draw is like a Worn Power Stone. You're like, man, that could have been literally any other card and I probably would have been happier. So we run 5 pieces of 2 mana, 1/0, 1/1, and 1/3. Oh, excuse me, for a total of 8. And I feel like that is, it's like, okay, 1/10 of the deck is mana ramp. That should be fine. We also have 2 of our big like stacks pieces. This is not a stacks deck necessarily, but it has elements of that. We've got Topper Orb, which is an artifact from New Phyrexia. It's a Commander All-Star. The problem is that a lot of decks can't run it profitably because Enter the Battlefield effects are so powerful in Commander. It just hoses your opponents. Usually, like most decks that run creatures have ETB effects, especially like if they're counting on their creatures to do ETB for artifacts and enchantments, so they don't pack a Croson Grip because they've got a Reclamation Sage. Because while Croson Grip might be uncounterable, maybe they can recur Reclamation Sage more, so they use that instead of the Grip, and then they can't get rid of a Topper Orb. So creatures enter the battlefield don't cause abilities to trigger. This means it doesn't trigger their enchantments ability, so it turns off stuff like Aura Shards. It turns off enter the battlefield effects like we said, and it really just, it does lots of things. And then Winter Orb. This card is a win condition. You get up ahead with 2 or 3 Planeswalkers. They spend their mana to do a bunch of things. You wrath the field and cast Winter Orb, and then they send you an angry message on chat and disconnect. This card is bonkers. Another pretty timely reprint by Eternal Masters. As long as it is untapped, players can't untap more than 1 land during their untap step. You don't need to be a genius to know that that is backbreaking, especially if you're playing against a deck that does not run a lot of what's it called? Artifact ramp. Or creature ramp. So if they're using permanent land-based ramp, then Winter Orb can just shit on them, and that's what we're looking for. 3 mana, Call the Gatewatch, Demonic Tutor for Planeswalkers. It's okay. It's a card that's on the chopping block. Being 3 mana instead of 2 means you really have to be kind of in the middle to the late game to get the effect. If you're gonna summon up like an Ashiok, then you're fine because it's 6 mana and you can do 6 mana on turn 4 if you really wanted to. But 3 mana is kind of a lot for this effect. It's not bad. Like, we're a Planeswalker deck. We run a fair amount of them, so it's not bad. But I've got my eye on this one. I feel like just a a general tutor, like Grim Tutor or something like that, could do this job better. And the added flexibility would be nice. But on theme, that's a concession. Dismantling Blow, one of my favorite artifact enchantments. Destruction cards. It's a disenchant for 1 extra mana that gets you a kicker, and if you kick it, you draw 2 cards. So, let's say they tap out for their Gilded Lotus, and then you kill it with a Dismantling Blow on your end step and draw 2 cards, and you're impossibly far ahead. Cool card, cool art. Council's Judgment. It's the best removal 1-for-1 in the game. I had a lot of guys comment on the video where I think it was a zombie had taken control of my Master of the Wild Hunt, and I was mystified as to why both of those things died when I hit the Sower of Temptation with a Council's Judgment. I understand what you're trying to say now. It made sense as soon as the first person said it. Thank you for pointing that out. I was very legitimately had no idea what was going on. I haven't played this card very much. It doesn't get played a lot on Moto for some reason, and it definitely doesn't get played wherever I play Paper. Alright, now we've got Oath of Jace, the only oath we're running. This is the only good one. I guess the green one's probably okay. But I don't like any of the other oaths. I don't like Gideon's or Liliana's oath. I think they're dumb. They don't do anything. Oath of Jace. Legendary enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, draw 3, discard 2. So it's like a bad compulsive research. But at the beginning of your upkeep, you scry X, where X is the number of planeswalkers you control. So it's a pretty good card. Obviously gets better with planeswalkers. Excuse me, as it is a worse compulsive research, which some people would consider a worse Thirst for Knowledge, because Thirst for Knowledge is instant speed. I don't run either of those. Again, this is a concession for flavor, because this deck is planeswalker themed. And if I have a jillion Jaces, I think I've run 5 Jace cards, or 4 Jace cards, I'm going to run Oath of Jace. So that's what that card is there. I mean, it's never hurt me. Like, this card is not actively bad, so that's going to stay in over compulsive research. Even though you guys know I love compulsive research. Oh, excuse me. Ristic Study, boring. Cards on the chopping block. I don't think it's that good in 1v1. I mean, it probably could be, but I don't know. I'm just haven't been thrilled with it. Becomes like a one-sided sphere of resistance, which I guess isn't bad, but I don't know. It's never like won a game for me. Baby Jace, minus, minus, plus, minus, minus, plus. You guys know the deal with Baby Jace. It's our first Planeswalker, so that's kind of exciting. Planeswalker count 1. Read the Bones, my favorite common draw spell, I think. For 1 extra mana over Night's Whisper, you get to scry 2, which I think is a great value. Scrying also, as we talked about before, putting stuff on the top of our libraries goes really well with some of our planeswalkers. Deploy the Gatewatch and stuff like that. Toxic Deluge, one of the best wraths in the format, brought to you cheaper now by Eternal Masters. Pay X life. Creatures get -X until end of turn. It's our first Wrath also, and it's a Wrath that hits indestructible guys and kills weenies for cheap. Hero's Downfall. It's our first piece of targeted removal. That's not true. We had Path and Swords. But this one can hit planeswalkers, so that's cool. Phyrexian Arena. Draws extra cards. The loss of 1 life is actually nothing because we're gaining 2 life every upkeep with Oloro. Anguished Unmaking, the new Vindicate XP, possibly better than it, from Shadows over Innistrad. Exile a target non-land permanent, you lose 3 life. So in exchange for not being able to hit lands and for 3 life, you get instant speed, which is probably worth it, especially in Commander over regular Vindicate. And you can just run regular Vindicate right next to it. So we have Anguished Unmaking and Vindicate side by side. Second Planeswalker, we have Ashiok, Nightweaver. I remember playing, and this card was like $40, and I got it for like 2, maybe 1.5. It's definitely the weakest of our Planeswalkers, but it's one just like Venser. And so Venser is not a strong card in this deck, and Magic is freaking out. Venser is not a powerful card in this deck, obviously, because we don't have Enter the Battlefield effects galore because of Torpor Orb. So Venser is just a card that opponents get really fucking scared of. And even though this deck doesn't run it very well, like, Venser is still... Hold on, what was I saying? Alright, so Ashiok, not a big threat, can get out of control, but not usually. Venser, same deal. Moving on. You guys get the gist of what I'm trying to say. Elspeth does the Elspeth thing. She makes dudes make them bigger and gives a largely irrelevant emblem because Planeswalkers are usually sacrificed because they are sacrificed when they reach 0 loyalty. So whenever you like attack a Planeswalker, they're not destroyed. If they get to 0 or less loyalty counters, they're sacrificed as a state-based effect. Humility, linchpin of this deck, and another insta-concede. This card is brutal. All creatures lose all abilities and have base power and toughness 1/1. So it's a Torpor Orb on crack. So with Humility out, there's a bunch of stupid fucking things, and you can look up all the rules interactions with Humility. But the important thing is, for our purposes, are A, when Humility is on the field, all creatures lose all abilities and have base power and toughness 1/1. B, they do not trigger Enter the Battlefield effects because they do not have abilities when they enter the battlefield. C, if a creature is if its power and toughness is modified by something like Sword of Fire and Ice or I don't know, Honor of the Pure, it will go to 1/1 and then be modified by that card. So a Stoneforge Mystic with a Sword of Fire and Ice on it with Humility in play is a 3/3 with the abilities printed on the sword. Same thing goes for enchantments. Morph cards cannot be flipped while Humility is on the field, but there's one thing you can do around Humility. I don't know, I forget, but cool card, does a lot. Wrath of God, wraths the board, dismiss, counterspell. Jace, Architect of Thought, is makes their dudes smaller, also Truth or Tales, and has an irrelevant emblem, or irrelevant ultimate. Jace the Mind Sculptor doesn't have an irrelevant ultimate, but usually never gets there because you usually just want to brainstorm every turn. His brainstorm ability goes great with Alhamrit's Archive. So let's go over Alhamrit's Archive because it's pretty insane. So if you would gain life, you gain twice that much life instead. If you would draw a card except the first one you draw in each of your draw steps, draw 2 cards. So that plays really nice with Oloro, right? So it turns all of our brainstorm effects, specifically just Jace, into draw 6, put 2 back, which is a little bit better than draw 3, put 2 back. Turns, Night's Whisper into a draw 4. Draw 4, draw 6, draw 2, draw 2, draw 2, draw 2. Like, it's got a lot of things it plays really nice with, and we gain 4 life a turn instead of 2, so very good card. Ancient Craving, draw 3, so you would draw 6 with it out. You lose 3 life. Damnation, Wrath, Narset, Planeswalker from Dragons of Tarkir. A very high starting loyalty. +1. Hello, phone. What can I do for you? Someone posted a YouTube comment. No, it's just a new video that someone posted. Narset. You gotta look at your top card. If it's non-creature, non-land, put it in your hand. Give your spells rebound, and then a backbreaking ultimate. Very cool. Another kind of like deceptively unpowerful commander in this deck. Like obviously, being able to draw a card. It's one in this deck. It's one half of a card because it's either a land or a non-land. It's still not as good as draw a card. And I don't know why, like, I don't know, like, it's worse than draw a card. Your +1 is worse than just draw a card. And I get you can't have a Planeswalker that's at 6 loyalty, with 4 mana, have its +1, just be straight up draw a card. But, like, in normal decks, it's just not gonna do enough. Like, her +1 is a third of a card, maybe. In other decks, it's just not great. Her -2, fantastic. Rebound is a great ability. And her -9 means you win the game. But her +1 leaves a lot to be desired. Still a fun card. It's a great card if you're just comboing, or not even comboing, you're just like globetrotting because it doesn't matter what you fucking reveal. You're just going to win anyway. Supreme Verdict, Uncounterable Wrath. Nevinyrral's Death, Wrath in installments, but is semi-uncounterable. Doesn't hit your Planeswalkers, but it does take care of artifacts and enchantments, which sometimes need to be taken care of. Alright, now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of our Planeswalkers. We have the worst Elspeth, who makes dudes with her minus and then gains life with her plus. Make some blockers if you need to, gain some inconsequential life. Easily a cuttable Planeswalker if another good one shows up. Gideon, one of the ways we can actually kill somebody is with a Gideon. Also, he is like a fog, and he also destroys a tapped creature, which is really cool. Got a lot of love for Gideon. I don't know, I think he's a cool Planeswalker. Jace, Unraveler of Secrets, new guy from Shadows over Innistrad. +1, see, +1, scry 1, then draw a card. Way better than fucking Narset's, but whatever. -2, unsummon, and -8, be an asshole. So, card's really good. Gives you a lot of filter for your hand, and then like an emergency bounce. That's not as backbreaking as that other Jace that was from like M15, whose bounce was just fucking terrible. His plus was fucking terrible too. Like, ugh. Vryn's Prodigy I hear is pretty good, but I don't know if he's very good for this deck, and he's still like $40. Tamiyo, taps, draws, emblems. The emblem's not quite a game winner in this deck, but it's a game winner. Like it's no Prime Speaker, where getting a Tamiyo ult means there's no possible way you lose the game. But it's close. Liliana, discard, Vampiric Tutor. Again, going very well with Narset, Sorin, Gaywatch. Just a cool OG Planeswalker. Really cool. Cool art. Omnixilus. Speaking of good art, this is terrible art. This art is offensively bad. But you draw a card and lose 1 life. So here we have more drawing a card with a plus that Narset can't seem to fucking do. -3 destroys a creature, and an emblem that also says you win the game. I've gotten his emblem off once before. It was against a 5-color Planeswalker deck. I think it was a Sliver Queen deck. I managed to get this off and then killed him with a Sphinx's Revelation, which is, sometimes Sphinx's Revelation wins you the game, but not directly killing your opponent. So that was fun. Venser, we kind of talked about. His +2 is great for resetting Planeswalkers, which is what I usually use it for. I mean, sometimes you'll get some value out of a Scry land or a Bajuka Bog, but really just setting Planeswalkers like Karn or Ageless, Narset, that you kind of want to play and immediately use a negative ability instead of their positive. Venser sort of alleviates the pressure of doing that and gives a lot of survivability to your Planeswalkers. And the opponents completely 100% overvalue Venser. And so we'll throw all of them at Venser and not a, like in this deck, I think I would rather have a Jace on the field than I would have a Venser. And they'll kill Venser before they kill Jace 100% of the time. We talked about Alhammarret's Archive. We got Austere Command, a Modal Wrath. Very good, does a lot of things. Sometimes you need to hit different things, and this does that. Deploy the Gatewatch, new card from Eldritch Moon that is currently bugged on Moto. So look at the top 7 cards of your library, put up to 2 Planeswalkers from among them onto the battlefield, put the rest on the bottom in a random order. So if you have no Planeswalkers in the top 7, right now, as of the 15th of August, 3:45 p.m., it will not show your cards, which is kind of annoying. It's no gameplay thing because it doesn't matter what the cards are, but I like to have that information to me, and it also makes it look like it fucks up. So deploy the Gatewatch, really good with cards that look at the top of our library. We can use Jace the Mind Sculptor to force like Ugin and Karn and shit back on the top of our library. Cast Deploy the Gatewatch, get 2 monsters of any variety and win the game from there. Also, is probably the worst card in the deck because it's 6 mana, do nothing a lot of times, which, a deck like this usually can't afford, but it's so fucking backbreaking when it happens that I just have to run it. Elspeth. You guys all know what Elspeth does. She makes dudes, destroys dudes, and makes your dudes better. Sorin Markov. It's not in the spirit of the format. Fuck you, I don't have any creatures. Sometimes I need to make your life total 10. Most of the time, however, I'll just use it to kill off dorks because, I don't care if their life total's 10. Sorin Markov is a 6-turn clock on its own, which is not good. So, I mean, if I'm obviously in a position where I can win with, a Gideon or an Oloro, then I'll make your life 10. They'll probably concede after that because everyone hates that happening to them. But I really just like being able to shoot things with tiny toughness and gain 2 life. New Sorin, the 4th fucking Sorin printed. He's almost Jace. Again, with terrible art. Reveal the top card of your library. There's that again. Put it in your hand. Each opponent loses life equal to the converted mana cost. So a really nice combo with stuff that puts stuff in the back of our library. And then his -X kills things and you gain life. Very good for taking out little things. And also, pretty good for taking out big things. Big things, I'd rather use like a Karn, an Ugin, or a Nixilis to get rid of, instead of having to go -5 on a 6 loyalty Planeswalker to kill a, fucking Baneslayer Angel. And his, I guess this is a card that makes creatures. His ultimate puts, 50 black vampires with lifelink into play. It's never gonna happen, so. Karn, exiles a card from hand, exiled permanent, restart the game. A back-breaking concede now card. Same with Ugin. Both of these cards have easily been in the top 5 most conceded to out of hand. And I believe our last card, if I'm thinking correctly, yes, is Sphinx's Revelation. Gain X life, draw X cards. Just, again, just a brutal, just It's like, oh, I have 10 mana. All right, end of turn. I'll Sphinx's Rev for 7. You know, I'll go to 68 and draw 7 cards. Your turn, asshole. So this deck is very different than decks I've played before. That sound you just heard is my TV turning off. But I really enjoyed it. Way more than I thought I was going to, because I like a good bit of turning creatures sideways in my Magic. So we're going to play this game. We're going to play this game using this asshole, and we're going to probably win every game we play, which I'm totally behind. So I'll see you guys in the first game.